What is up, fellow benchwarmers? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Benchwarmers. I'm your host JJT with Commish. Commish, Eric, how are you?
I'm fine. It's a rainy Tuesday night here in the Philippines.
And quiet when it comes to the NBA. Very quiet. There have been some rumors popping up once again about the Kevin Durant and the Donovan Mitchell movement, I guess. But looks like nothing's really close to being
This
a
this
deal.
came from the article of Shams in the Athletic, and of course we follow different basketball sites, and they took out some of the things that Shams wrote there and then posted it in different sites. What I see being posted most is the Atlanta offer.
Yeah, the
John
John
Collins, DeAndre
Collins.
Hunter. Yeah. But I don't understand why why that stuck to the minds of basketball people, because that's impossible that the Nets would take that offer. I think that was just an offer for the sake of offering.
Yeah.
So
Actually, a
yeah,
lot of the
I don't see
deals, a
that.
lot of the rumors are not really good deals. Not realistic. I think the Grizzlies also made some offer.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
And
Grizzlies. Yeah.
and I don't see any player other than Ja Morant that the Nets would really want there. They
Well,
might have
there would
picks,
be
but
there would be some players, but the Grizzlies supposedly took Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bain out of the equation. So if you're not giving Ja, you're not giving JJJ, you're not giving Bain, who are you giving? You're probably gonna give Dylan Brooks, right? You're probably
he's not even young.
yes. So yeah, that's if JJJ and Bain are non-starters, there's no way that the Nets would make a deal with the Grizzlies. So they'll have to give somebody more substantial than Brooks, or I don't know who, Brandon Clark. I don't know who they're
Yeah,
thinking of giving.
maybe, but really, to be honest, there's really not much. I think all of these rumors are just that
That-
rumors. I mean, they might have been offering, but I think some
Actually,
teams are just trying to take their chances to see what is the market like for Kevin Durant.
the best deal was really, and is still for me, the supposed Phoenix deal of DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and picks. For me, if I'm Brooklyn, that's the best I would be getting, considering Durant's 34, Durant's history of injuries and everything. They wanted more. But for me, Mikal and Ayton was really plus picks. It's really a great offer already. They should have taken that. Now that Ayton's off the table because he signed an extension, they're left with Mikal. So then that's out. They're out again, and they'll have to go back to Boston and Miami.
Yeah,
Basically, the two teams. If Boston offered Jalen Brown and I think Marcus Smart or something. If if
yeah,
they offer Robert Williams, then the deal would be done. But I don't think the Celtics would do that. I don't think the Celtics would include Robert Williams in the deal. But that would probably be what it would take to get Durant if you're Boston,
yeah.
I think.
So it's still a wait and see with Kevin Durant, and the longer we wait, the harder it is for us to decide where to pick Kevin Durant in fantasy terms. I mean, I still think he's a first rounder. I don't see him honestly missing games or holding out. But we don't know. I mean, that's just me guessing
I guess
because I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
ask you
it's in.
because
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you because in case that this would not get resolved, uh, and they say that Durant will report for training camp, would you still bump him down a little bit, if in case that it doesn't get resolved by the time we draft?
I think he's still worthy of that pick. First round pick for sure. Maybe bump him down to maybe the 10th, 11th, 12th. If he still makes it there. I think, if it doesn't get resolved, the closer we get to the opening uh, opening of the season, the lower the value of Durant would be, right? I think in fantasy terms, as the longer this takes, the lower the value of Durant, because as you get closer to the start of the season, managers would be thinking if they still want Durant, right? I mean, if you're drafting a week before the season starts and Durant is still a net, you'll be a little more cautious in picking him because you might think he's gonna hold out, or he's not gonna do his best, right? So I
That's
think,
interesting because I think the range of Durant starts from number two. I've seen him,
yeah, true.
right? Yeah, I've seen experts, analysts, and other people talk about him at number two. And you said 10, 11, 12, which for some people might be too low, but for me, you could, because of the risk, it could happen. It could happen that he falls all the way there. So
I
it
wouldn't
is
be
going to be very
surprised.
interesting.
I
It's going to
wouldn't
be
be
very
surprised,
interesting.
especially after we talked about the first round and the uncertainties around that range of picks.
Yeah.
Plus, we have some players like Ja Morant who could leapfrog everyone and be a top 10 pick this year. Especially if some are really high on him. LeBron is another guy. I mean, like you said, if there are fanboys out there who's gonna try and get Ja and LeBron, they might not be able to wait until the second round. So he might drop off to 10, 11, 12. And I mean, compared to the other guys like Kawhi, who else? Kyrie. I think I trust Durant more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I think Durant's ceiling is just higher. When everybody, if he's healthy, Kyrie's healthy, Kawhi's healthy, Paul George, AD, they're all healthy. KD, KD is naturally the number two guy in
yeah.
fantasy for me. If we were gonna say 82 games of everyone per game, KD is number two. Now, the thing here is if you draft early though, that's what I'm gonna ask you. If your draft is tomorrow, you have the number five pick, let's say, would Durant be part of the equation for you, or would you just pass? Because number five is still okay. You still have lots of other choices there.
I'd probably still pass.
Yeah.
Number five, like if we
Yeah,
talk
number five.
what the first pick was Jokic, and then we go last week.
Giannis.
Last week we talked about these Giannis, Luca, this
Embiid.
Luca, Joel Embiid, and who's the number five guy?
Harden.
Well, yeah,
I
James
I picked
Harden,
Harden.
Anthony
Yeah.
Towns. I mean, these are safer picks. No drama around these guys. Uh, Kevin Durant would always have drama around him. If you don't
That's
want to
true.
deal,
That's
if you
true.
don't want to deal with that, then you pick the safer guys. But if you're at the seventh, eighth, ninth, I mean, I think I don't mind risking taking Durant there. Some of the guys there like Tatum, not as consistent yet, right?
But
Um,
can you believe that KD is 34? I mean, a lot of people might not realize he's 34 years old. So even if he
he is,
gets
but
traded,
last year he was good when he played. When he played,
when
still the question mark.
that's the thing. That's the thing. He's been always injury prone for me. I mean, he doesn't get the hit as much as AD or the other injury prone players, but he has had a lot of injuries himself.
Yeah,
And I was shocked when I heard that he's going to be 34 by the start of the season. So I was thinking, made me think twice, thrice about him. It's just, yeah, age is a number, but it has a factor in the NBA. It has some factor there. It could affect his health this coming season also.
yeah, and other than being injury prone, he's someone who is not going to push it when it comes to injury.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course, because of the age as well. But he's not the type who's like a Trey Young who's gonna really try to come back as early as he can just to be able to play, right? So he's a little more cautious with his body, and also I think that's going to be a factor. Plus, it's a common thing right now, load management, and we've heard it's not really the players who we are always annoyed with when it comes to load management. It's the teams actually. I've been
Yeah.
listening to some podcasts, and some players, former players, are saying, it's really not the players who are saying that they don't want to play. It's more of the teams who are being a lot more cautious with their superstars in particular. So, yeah, load management is a norm, and unfortunately, KD is probably one of those guys who's going to be load managed because of his age. Another guy who is on the trading block, Donovan Mitchell. There have been rumors about New York is still the front runner, I guess.
Yeah. New York, they said Charlotte. I think Washington was mentioned, but I think Charlotte is one team that wants him. But it's really New York for me. New York should be the team that's New York should be a team that has the package. But they
Yeah,
offered Fournier and Toppin. I don't think that's gonna that's gonna work. I don't think it's
yeah.
gonna work.
Fournier, that alone breaks the deal.
Yes.
Deal
For
breaker.
yeah, Fournier breaks the deal, and I think what they want is Quentin Grimes. He's one of my sleepers. I'm just gonna say it out now. One of my sleepers for this year's fantasy season. Quentin is a guy that the Jazz wants. So if they don't offer Quentin Grimes, I don't think they can get uh, Donovan
It's
Mitchell.
interesting you mentioned that. If there are teams who, are insisting of getting a certain player that can, give you, that can ring, at least give you a hint that these players are, relatively good. Because Quentin Grimes is a player you probably haven't really heard or don't know much about until maybe during the summer league recently. But he did well last year during, when some players were injured. But still, he's not a household name. He's not a high recruited rookie, I guess. Or at least in fantasy terms, he's not the best out there. But given that some teams want him and there's been some hype around him, he might be a player to watch out for.
And that's surprising for people. Like Donovan Mitchell deal is not yet going through because the Knicks do not want to give up Quentin Grimes, and Danny Ainge insisting on Quentin Grimes. People are like, who is Quentin Grimes? What is he's averaging how many points a game only? But when he played last season, he's a favorite of Tibbs. Tibbs loved him because over Cam Reddish,
Yeah.
over some of the other more higher picked youngsters, because he can play defense and he shot the ball well. He's a 3-and-D guy. And if you see his, well, here we go again with the pictures of off-season players, but he really bulked up. And I think he's going to have a good season. I really think he's going to. I've watched him for a while and I'm really impressed with the guy. He's a high potential guy, high ceiling.
Yeah. So yeah, player to watch out for. But the Donovan Mitchell thing, I think that's, for me, I think that's likely more, I think that can happen earlier than the KD thing, because Donovan Mitchell is somewhat not a big, or he's a big superstar, but not as big as Kevin Durant. It's not a game changer yet. When you talk about adding Kevin Durant versus adding Donovan Mitchell.
Well, you talked about Durant being a 10th to 12th pick because of the uncertainties. How about Donovan? Staying away?
No,
Strictly
not
staying
staying away. I
away?
think
Or
he will be where he used to be, a second rounder, I guess. I don't think the roles will change as much.
so okay.
If
So
he stays in
you're okay.
Utah,
You're
if he
okay with
stays
him.
in Utah, okay, if he stays in Utah, then that's big because he probably is the only guy there. I don't remember anyone there
Hello,
in Utah left.
SGA situation part 2.
Yeah,
Right?
true. But if he gets rated, he gets pretty much the same usage probably as last year's usage. So yeah, I think second round would be fair.
I think he's gonna drop. I'm not saying I'm not gonna pick him. I think he's gonna drop.
He's a
Um,
favorite of Commish.
before. I'm gonna say something about Donovan here. Whether you pick him or not pick him this year that should be dependent on whether you think he gets traded or not. If he's, as Jeremy said, if he stays in Utah, I'm gonna give two things. Number one, we talked about the SGA factor. He not could be rested.
True. I
He
didn't
will
think
be rested.
I didn't really think about that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he will
You're
be
right.
rested. Number two, the playoff schedule of Utah sucks. Really, really sucks. One of the worst I've seen in history. So if he stays in Utah, even if he doesn't get rested, he's gonna have a terrible schedule. So yeah, those two things makes me iffy about him. I hope he gets traded before the season, before we draft. But if not, if he's going to go 24, 25, 26, 22, 23, I may pass. I may pass for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. The SGA factor is a major one. So you're right. If you think he's gonna be traded, which I think he will be, I think he will be. Like I said, he's an easier trade than Kevin Durant.
Not if you're Danny Ainge asking for 7 draft picks. I mean, insane. Danny Ainge is going
No,
crazy.
let's see. We don't know. Like sometime mid-season, someone might ask for another trade from any of the other teams. We don't know. It happens. Yeah. So speaking about the schedule, today's topic really would be more about the schedule. It's very important, especially when you're playing head to head, because of that's where you look at from week to week on what your chances are versus your opponent. So tell us, Commish, how important is this?
If you're playing head to head, that's your Bible. I mean,
that's your first reference, I guess.
Yeah, I would not pick or go to a draft without looking or glancing at the schedule at least. Maybe you don't study it as much, but at least know the teams that have a bad playoff schedule. Yeah. That's it. I mean, if you don't have time, just know when your playoffs will be, and then look at the schedule on those weeks. That's the fundamental thing, the basic thing you have to do. So that's what I do. But other people go to extremes. They really study everything about the schedule before they draft. So I think it's very important. It's really very important.
Yeah. Well, personally, I don't look too much into the schedule because I always value getting into the playoffs. I mean, there's no point in
True.
I mean, if you're choosing between two players, probably of equal value or of equal skill, of you feel it's really more of who I want. Maybe the schedule would be a factor, but for me, it's really more of which player would be best for my team. And
no, I'm gonna give a context. No, Jeremy before wasn't that focused in fantasy, so he was the playoffs. Just like sometimes he gets in, sometimes he doesn't. But since FBW was born,
I improved my drafting. Last year's drafting was really one of the best for me.
And my point is, you do not have to think about making the playoffs anymore like before. So I think you'll be looking at the playoff schedule more because it's a given for you already.
No, before what I do is
nowadays
I look into the schedule when I'm pretty much secured in the playoffs, and then I will try to make some trades, like trade some of my players with bad schedule to maybe some players with a better schedule. That's what I'll do. Now, not too much on it, I guess. Luck still plays a big part when it comes to the playoffs.
I'm the same thing. I'm the same way with you. I'll be honest. The past 2-3 years, I haven't had the time to really check the schedule before drafting. Unlike some of our friends like Eric Ong, and the others, they really know who are the good playoff schedule teams. But the past few years, I haven't. I had the same mindset as Jeremy. I was thinking, when the playoffs come, not too near, maybe around middle or whatever, I will try to make trades. But last year I wasn't able to make any trades. It was hard because you have to spend time and we're so busy with everything. So
no, but you also had an unlucky year.
I'm not gonna rely on that.
You didn't have a good year last year. I mean, a lot of your players were injured. Even if you wanted to trade them, no one would really want them.
Yeah.
That also plays a part. I mean, trading them before the playoffs is not easy, guys. We're just telling you. That's what our mentality was before, but trading is not as easy as it sounds, right? There are a
And
lot of factors involved. If you have good
and
players, then
especially
good.
yeah, and especially if you have guys like SGA, for example. I'll just give SGA as an example.
Yeah, I
Right?
tried to trade that guy, but no one really wanted him.
I think I don't know if it's Champions League or Invitationals. I had him in the Champions League and I wanted to trade him after he exploded, I don't know, week 4 or 5 or something. He had a good stretch and I was trying to trade. In the Champions League, as Jeremy said, it's a high level league. And everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows that you're trading because of this, because of that. So it's really tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
So don't I won't
If
rely
you're
on that.
against very competitive managers, they know what you're doing. You can't fool them. You
Yes.
can't, if we even if we tell you to, sell high on this player, they know you're selling high.
They know
Um,
they're selling high. Yeah.
right? They know that you're selling high. So I've seen it last year. I mean, last year's trades with so many leagues we organized. Last year we had what, around 10, I guess, overall. The trades, I've seen the different trades. Some of the trades were, you know, you wouldn't really think that it was a good trade for one, and then suddenly it became really a laughable trade because the other really got the bad end of it with injuries. And also really it's not easy to trade uh, players, so I wouldn't recommend that. But having said that, the schedule still plays a big role, particularly in the playoffs and week to week, I guess, week to week. I
Yes.
know our friend Max of Hall of Fame DFS, always emphasizes this. The schedule is the key to winning your week to week. Plus, of course, some luck involved.
Especially if you're not gonna go into trading, then you have to know your schedules because you have to already have the players that you think would have a lot of games when the fantasy playoffs comes. I mean, it's already with you. You don't have to rely on anybody else. You already have them. You pick them. So if you're not gonna rely on trading, you have to have the schedules down pat. That's very important. It's very
Yeah,
important.
and your advantage with the schedule are, you know, not everyone looks into the schedule. So when you're trading, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
easier to trade. It's easier to trade based on the schedule than you doing a sell high buy low thing or whatever trade. That's easier to think of the mentality of trading. With trading, it's easier when you're thinking of, yeah, because I want your guy because it has a better schedule. Of course, you won't tell that to the other manager, but you know, on on the surface, it would look fair. But if you look at the playoff schedule, maybe, or the schedule for the following week or the rest of the season, you're at an advantage because you have a better schedule, right? So not everyone looks into the schedule, but today we're gonna look into the schedule. Let's just shout out where we're getting this. We got this from hashtag basketball. That's the site that we are looking into, just to acknowledge and cite the website that we're getting in reference. So here is the week on week schedule. What should we look for here, Commish?
Well, it depends on when your playoffs start. Okay, so for fantasy bench warmers listeners, if you joined our leagues, we're automatic 20 to 22, week 20 to 22. So that's what we will discuss first, I think, because that's our default setting
Yeah.
here in FBW. And as I said, if you go down to Utah, I'm sorry, not Utah, LA Clippers first. Utah has a bad schedule, but LA Clippers 20 to 22 is 2 games, 3 games, and 3 games. So, I guess if you're listening to us right now, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, these players who are already risky to begin with, would be not as appealing even more, right? I mean, seeing a
Yeah.
schedule where you have 8 games in 3 weeks isn't good. It's not really good.
Last
And
year,
then Utah,
they also had one of the worst schedules for the
yeah,
playoffs.
And then Utah. I think if I'm not mistaken, I saw it. They have a 2-game. Yeah, the Utah down. They have 3-24-23. There, 3-2-4. So that's bad also. That's why I said if you have Donovan Mitchell, that won't be good news.
Yeah.
For the other teams, there are no 4-4-4 teams here from week 20 to 22. So it's balanced, but there are weeks like there are a lot of 2-game weeks from 20 to 22 for different teams. Like you see Charlotte there, you see Chicago, who also have Chicago, by the way, also has a bad schedule. So you have to bump down guys like, I don't know, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Now, here's something I'm gonna say. We're not saying, I don't know for Jeremy, but after seeing something like this, would you say I won't draft DeRozan? I won't draft Kawhi. I won't draft Paul George. We're not saying that. For me, I'm not saying that. If Kawhi is there at number 20, let's say, or 21, I mean, you still pick him because that's a good value.
Yeah.
But you have to think of it if you have Kawhi, option of Kawhi and AD maybe at number 14 or 15 or 16. Maybe you go AD more because of this schedule. That's how I look at it. I don't know about you. But,
Yeah, that's right.
how
That's how you probably go look at it. I mean, it's nice to know the schedule, but to overanalyze it and stay away from these players with bad schedule. Like I said, even if like DeRozan, for example, or knowing that the Bulls have a not so good schedule, but DeRozan's there for the picking, and there's really no better player than him, maybe, in at least in your draft position at a certain level, like maybe a fourth round or a third round, right? DeRozan probably goes there, the third and fourth round. Last year he fell. I don't think he's gonna fall this year.
Yeah.
Like if he's in the fourth round, fifth round, if he falls to the fifth round, then maybe he is. You should be picking him up regardless of the schedule.
And then as just to go back to the week 20 to 22 schedule. Yeah, this is something unique this year. Usually there are teams who have 4-4-4 or 3-4. I mean, good schedule in for the playoffs usually from week 20 to 22 or 21 to 23. But for week 20 to 22, I don't see anybody really that has a outstanding schedule. Let's say Miami. Miami has 4-4 and then suddenly 2 games. So there are lots of situations here that are similar. 4-4-2 or then 4-2-4 or 2-4-4. So it's tough. It's tough to plan this year. But one team that I would like to mention here is Sacramento. Sacramento has a 3-4-4 schedule, but what I want to mention them because from week 21 to 24 they have 4 games. So that is good news. Especially we know Sacramento won't tank. They want to make the playoffs. So players Sabonis, right? Sabonis would become.
Do they really want to make the playoffs?
Yes, because they are the team with the longest drought, playoff drought. So they really, really will try to make that play-in. Just even the play-in tournament, they're gonna fight for that. So they're a team that I think would be playing their stars or their players late into the season. So that last 4 weeks of 4 games each week, if Sabonis is not injured by that time. And actually, a lot of their games are in the last part of the season. If you can see, 7 of the last 9 weeks, they have 4 games.
Yeah.
So you might suffer early on, but later on, it's good. It's going to be good for you.
No, it's nice to have, one Sacramento player there. If you were able to snag one, that's nice already. I mean, maybe a Sabonis, like you said, or the Aaron Fox, or maybe the rookie, right? So
Murray, yeah.
Davion Mitchell is another player you might want to be looking into as well. I mean, these guys, at least one of those, and then if that person plays really well at the early part of the season, then that's a good pick already.
Another team I want to mention is OKC. OKC, if you look at their schedule from week 18 maybe, something like week 18 to 24. You can see that they have a lot of games. Now
Yeah,
again,
this is
this is a
18. They
problem.
have a 5 game
Yes,
week 18.
5-4-4, right? 5 4
Yeah,
4 3 4 4 3. That's good because you don't have any 2-game week, and you have a consistent schedule. The problem, I've talked to Jeremy about this, it's wasted on them because I don't know who will be playing by this time in OKC. Whether Chet Holmgren will still be playing, whether Giddy will be playing,
will
whether SGA
SGA
will be
still be
playing.
playing?
Yeah, so it's a pity. It's a pity because that's really a good one, a good schedule late in the season when you're really fighting for playoff spot or positioning. It would be good if you have Chet or maybe SGA giving you this kind of schedule, but that's a problem. This is not gonna be maximized with OKC.
On the flip side, there's also opportunities there, even if you didn't have, whether you have or don't have OKC players. This is where some of the unknown heroes plays a big role during fantasy playoffs, right? Players you haven't really heard about, right? I mean, last year there were a bunch of players who saved a lot of teams during the playoffs and the finals. Of course, the reference point we have is the week 20 to 22. In case you have, later playoff schedule like 20 to 23 or 21 to 23 or 22 to 24, then, to be honest, if you have a
But
22 to 24, playoffs, I wouldn't really be concerned too much about playoff
the
schedule
schedule,
towards the end. I mean,
yes,
whoever you pick during the draft, don't think about if you have a 22 to 24, because really some of these guys will be, will not
rested.
be relevant already during those
They will be
weeks.
rested already. So this is out the window. That's why we want 20 to 22 because that's still this
It's
would
not too
still be
late,
relevant.
not
Yeah,
too late, not too
not too
early. I
early.
mean, 19's early. I mean, you'll end the season really early, right? I think the some in Yahoo the playoffs really start. The earliest is 19, right? 19, 20,
19.
21, I think. So
And if you play 19, Miami has the best schedule. Miami has the best schedule because the 2-game week comes on 22 when your season's
they have a
over.
4-4-4
So,
week.
yes, they have a 4-4-4. So that's perfect for them. And then again,
But
aside from
again,
them, they're
even if you have
well,
Miami, right? We talked about Jimmy Butler last week. Are you gonna trust Jimmy Butler to play all 4 games in every
no,
week?
no.
Right?
But I can trust Bam Adebayo that he might have a good bounce back year. He was injured also last year, but I think he is more motivated this year that he could he could be healthy by this year, healthier at least. So maybe not Butler, but Adebayo, or maybe some other guys like Tyler Hero. Maybe the schedule wise, I think it's more relevant to those players, those who are in the middle range,
Yeah.
middle round players, because some of these players they're almost similar. So you need something to differentiate them, and I think the schedule is one good way to choose whether you choose Jordan Poole or Hero, let's say. So sometimes you can look at the schedule who has a better
Yeah.
schedule because the Warriors actually also have a good schedule come late season.
Yeah.
From 21 to 23 they have 4-4-4, right?
Yeah.
So they have one of the good schedules from 21 to
No,
23.
21 to 23, they have 4-4-3.
Yeah. 4-4-3. But they have 5-4-3, 4-4-3 to end the season. So they have also a 5-game week there, and week 18 when you're fighting for playoff positioning. So it's also a good schedule. Also a good schedule there for
Yeah,
college.
they're like you said, pretty much spread out. Week 20 to 22, not really a lot of bad schedule. When we talk about bad schedule, I don't see really a really bad schedule, other than maybe the Clippers have a really bad schedule, but some have a 2-game week.
You see a 1-game week here, right? You see the week 14 1-game week, Chicago and Detroit.
Yeah, yeah,
They're going to Paris, I think. That's a Europe game. That's why it's 1 game week. I really don't like Chicago's schedule this this year. Uh, Lots of problems there on critical weeks
Yeah,
for Chicago.
and their players are really some of these players that you're gonna make you think, right? I mean,
Yeah,
DeRozan, we're gonna pick him. Lavine, were you gonna pick him? Lonzo Ball, we're
Lonzo's
gonna pick
injured.
him, right?
Lonzo's injured, right? Still not yet perfectly healthy. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna stay away from Lonzo.
yeah. Of course, we'll talk more about this during our draft primer, maybe in a couple of weeks or sometime when September hits, as we get really close to the NBA players. All right, that's the schedule.
I have one last thing to add for the schedule
All right,
before we say goodbye. I analyze the quality games of each team. We
back to
talked about that
backs.
when I do schedule analyzer, meaning how many games each team has on game days that are 5 games or less. So that's valuable also because right, like if your opponents do not have games and you have 3 or 4 players on those games, that's a very important advantage. And basically, it's the Clippers. The Clippers have the most. I don't know why. I don't know. Usually, days with less games, these are the games where the NBA features them. So maybe because the Clippers are healthy and are contenders, that's why they have 20. Actually, they have 20 quality games this year, and the other
Okay, so
contenders also have a lot.
just for the other listeners, the quality games are those when we call it the quality games because these are the days wherein there are not much games to be played, right? There are just 2 games, 3 games, or maybe
Yeah.
4 games, right? Maximum of 4 games, right? These are usually where uh, the featured games are in the NBA. Because there's really not much to watch. Like the Christmas Day games or quality
Yeah.
days
That's
because
why. Yeah.
not everyone's gonna be playing and very limited teams are gonna be playing. So we're talking about that. Which teams have the most games wherein not a lot of teams are gonna be playing that day? It's important because the reason it's important because it's for streaming, right? If you want to
Yeah.
add certain players, pick add drop certain players. You're not gonna waste your ad to a player who probably has just 1 game, right? And it's a game we're in, or 2 games, and both of those game days are that has a full schedule. Like all 30 teams are playing, or 28 of the 30 teams are playing, or maybe even 20 of the 30 teams are playing, right? So you don't want to do that. So you end
Yes.
up trying to pick those players who are from the games wherein there's just 2 games there, 3 games, because you're sure you can use that player, and chances are that your opponent would have lesser players playing on that game day as well.
And imagine if you have, let's say Clippers, I said 20 quality games. If you have Kawhi maybe, or maybe a Paul George, or even a Covington or whatever on those days, and your opponent doesn't have players, that's going to be a big advantage.
Yeah.
And the other teams that have a lot of quality games like Denver, probably because of Jokic, Golden State, of course, and a team like Milwaukee, maybe because of Giannis. The others are spread out, 12, 11, 13. Usually it's like that. But on the opposite end, Atlanta only has 3 quality games. So that's bad. 3, and also Charlotte has 5. Houston and Indiana, they have 5, which is not really surprising because these
Yeah.
teams are boring this year. I
But
mean, they're not
I mean, just to
contenders.
put some context as well, it's really not about the three youngs or the. I mean, you'll have an advantage, but most likely these superstars, the top level players, you'll probably draft them just because they're good. You're
Yeah.
not gonna draft them because they have less or more quality game days, right? Even the mid-level players, you're probably not gonna be thinking too much about the quality game days. This really has more effect on um, uh, choosing maybe between 2 players or during your streaming. I mean, the latter part of your draft, maybe the 7th round, 8th round onwards, you might take those things into consideration. but the
Yep.
top level players, you're gonna pick them where they are, or even a little lower than where you expect them to be. So not really a big deal during draft, but it's nice to know as well which teams have good quality, most number of quality game days. So at least when you stream later on, you'll know. Um, so yeah, that's it about the schedule. Um, and hope this one helped you guys. I mean, there have been some listeners asking when's the next episode would be, and yeah, here you go. Next week we'll probably talk more about start talking about the draft primer maybe, and because next week's probably September already, so we'll talk more about the draft primer. Fantasy Benchwarmers League, we're just waiting for everyone to pay up. We have a few players on our wait list. We're really thankful that we have 169 managers, unique managers joining this year from 100, probably around 100. We haven't even started the Roto sign up league, and we have some interesting leagues that we're trying to organize as well. So you'll know more about that once this one's done. The head-to-head, once they're finalized, we'll discuss more about those leagues. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting. We've got lots of new managers joining. I've got to know some of them as well over the past few days of talking or chatting with us. So yeah, that's the good thing about the community as well. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. We'll see you guys next week. Hope the schedule helped, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify or all our social media. You can follow us there to get updates. We would also have daily updates when the season starts, so that would really help you guys a lot, of course, with the daily quickies that we do during the season. All right, that's it. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.